Hello and welcome back to another easy online German grammar lesson. Last time I talked about the definite articles and now I will talk about the indefinite articles in German. As you already know, articles which stand before a noun are adjusted according to the gender of the noun, which means they can be masculine, feminine or neuter. They are also adjusted according to the case of the noun, which means the articles can stand in the nominative, genitive, dative or accusative. And the articles also have the same number as the noun they accompany, which means they can stand in the singular or plural. However, when we talk about the indefinite articles, there are no plural forms, so you only have to remember singular forms in the different cases and genders, of course. And we start with the nominative forms of the indefinite article. The masculine singular form is ein, the feminine form is eine, and the neuter form is ein again. So we have ein, eine, and ein. The genitive forms in the singular are eines, this is the masculine form, einer, this is the feminine form, and eines again, this is the neuter form. And it makes sense to compare the forms of the indefinite article to the forms of the definite article. Now let's have a look at the forms of the definite article. We have des as the masculine form, der as the feminine form, and des again as the neuter form. Now, if we compare these forms, eines and des, as the masculine forms and also neuter forms, then you see that both end in es. And if we compare einer and der as the feminine forms, then you can see that both end in er. So maybe this helps you to remember the forms of the indefinite article if you know the forms of the definite article. There is one special thing about the declension of nouns in the genitive plural form. We don't have plural forms of the indefinite article, and if you want to decline a noun in the genitive case and in the plural, then this noun has to be accompanied by an adjective, otherwise it's not possible. For example, if you want to express the wishes of women or the women's wishes in German, you would have to use the preposition von, and the dative case, you would have to say die Wünsche von Frauen. However, if we have an adjective which accompanies the noun, it's possible to decline the adjective and the noun in the genitive case. For example, if we have the wishes of beautiful women, then you could say die Wünsche schöner Frauen, and schöner Frauen would be genitive case. As an alternative, you could also say die Wünsche von schönen Frauen, then you have von and the dative again, but it's better to use the genitive. However, it would not be wrong to use the dative case, but the genitive sounds better. if we come back to the women's wishes or the wishes of women, you couldn't say die Wünsche Frauen. You couldn't say that, though the genitive plural form of die Frau or Frau, because we don't have an article, is Frauen, but you would have to use the preposition von and the dative case if we don't have an adjective which accompanies the noun. So this is one special thing about the declension of German nouns in the genitive plural. Then let's continue with the dative. We have einem. This is the masculine singular form, and it's also the neuter singular form. And we have einer as the feminine singular form, so it's einem, einer, and einem. If we come back to the forms of the definite article, it might also help you to remember the forms of the indefinite article in the dative case. So let's start with dem as the masculine singular form of the definite article. The feminine form is der, and the neuter form is dem again. So if we compare these forms, einem and dem, in the masculine and neuter form, you can see that both end in em, and the feminine forms, einer and der, have the er ending. In the nominative and accusative, it does not really make sense to remember the definite articles or to compare them, except the masculine singular form, and this is einen. Because we have einen, this is the indefinite article, and the definite article is den. So both have en at the end. The feminine form of the indefinite article is eine, and the neuter form is ein. So it's only helpful to compare the masculine singular forms, einen and den, because both have the ending en. And these were the forms of the indefinite article, and by the way, you use the forms of the indefinite article if you don't know a person or a thing. However, if you have received some information about a person or a thing, then you start to use the definite article, so you only use the indefinite article for persons or things you don't know, or you don't know yet. And this is all for today. I hope it was a helpful lesson. Please also comment and rate. And by the way, that's very important. To repeat the lesson or to get to the survey of the forms of the indefinite article, use the link in the description below the video. You will get to my website and you will find all the forms again and also some examples and example sentences. So you should use the opportunity to repeat everything again and to get familiar with the forms of the indefinite article. So for now I say bye-bye, or as we say in German, and as you should already know if you have watched some of my videos, tschüss. Mm.